You have been very proactive in organizing twinning events in more than 30 countries. What was the driving force behind organizing these events?
Well, thank you so much. Well, we were founded as a diverse society. There's not one ethnic group that's supposed to predominate. That you can be fully American if you're, you know, either Christian, Jewish, Muslim, whatever your ethnicity is. That's the ideal. It hasn't always worked out, as we know, in reality, but it's a work in progress, and that I think that's we're really working in that tradition. That this is just to hold this aside, but because of the fact we don't have a one ethnic group, we to hold this together, to make it work, to make it flourish, we need that kind of cooperation. And I think Sabeeha and I also feel that Muslims and Jews, we need to work on that relationship among many, not solely, of course, but because of the Israel-Palestine conflict, there has been a real pulling apart of Muslims and Jews, and so that we even in the States there's some fear and even fear and loathing, if you can use that term. It's there in both communities, and for a long time there was very little communication. When the two of us got involved in this work, there was much less, and we've played some small role in together with other wonderful people to build this up so that there is a real functioning relationship now. The number of rabbis and imams that know each other and work together must be, I don't know, tenfold what it was 15 years ago. I'm guesstimating, but I think it's been a real success story for a number of reasons. That it's really in the interests of both communities to do this, to build these ties, because God forbid we don't want the hostility to metastasize as it tragically has in Israel-Palestine. Could even lead to violence, or even if it doesn't lead to violence, it could lead to this kind of hostility. And we really do need each other in many ways, and we both, especially as minority faith communities, predominantly Christian society, but it's not supposed to be a Christian country. It's supposed to be a separation of church and state. We have a very strong interest together in making sure that stays the case, and so it's important for us to work together along those lines.
Do you think that writing has allowed you to create connections with individuals and communities that have followed your work, and can you elaborate on that? Do you derive your inspiration from the people and stories around you when you write? Can you talk a little bit more about your writing process?
So my involvement has not been in the Palestine-Israel conflict. My involvement has been in fostering understanding between Muslims and Jews in the United States. And of course, it eventually does trickle into and have an effect on or have an impact in the Holy Land, because there is a connection there. But the primary driving force has been that here in America, we are Americans first, and whereas the Israeli-Palestinian conflict matters a lot to us, we live here, not there. And therefore, we as Muslims and Jews and as Americans and as minority communities, which Walter has just talked about, need to come together if we are to maintain democracy and pluralism here in the United States. As we've heard the president say, democracy is at threat. We saw what happened on January 6th. That was just the beginning of the erosion of democracy. And if that were to happen, it is the minority communities that are at risk and that are vulnerable. So that's why it's important that we not only come together. Coming together is what will eventually happen, is the goal. But it's first fostering understanding, which leads to respect, which leads to friendship, and that's after that we become allies and advocates and stand up for one another. And that has been the reason behind it.
There are several younger individuals out there who would love for their work to be seen by a bigger audience, and I'm sure that they would really appreciate hearing from you about how they can get started in this field. For someone that wants to publish in publications such as the Wall Street Journal, what advice would you give?
Start making friends. Invite each other into your private spaces. It's one thing to meet in public places or in houses of worship, but when you meet in a living room over a dinner and you just huddle together and or go for a walk in the park or go see a movie together or coffee, that's when you start developing, you start going beyond just, oh, so I know why you don't eat kosher and or eat kosher and whatever, it's the human interaction is what comes through and what it leads to. But Walter, you want to add to that?
Well, I agree with Sabeeha completely, and I also feel that you mentioned youth, and youth is so important, and that youthful energy and idealism. And one of the things is that, unfortunately, on campuses, the university campuses, the stridency, the mutual demonization between the two communities, again related to the Israel-Palestine conflict, has really taken a toll. So it's really important that the two communities, on campuses, students find ways to work together. I mean, one of the most inspiring things I can remember, this is about 10 years ago or more, was right here at Rutgers, nearby here, to see the Jewish and the Muslim communities coming together, coming out, feeding the hungry together. I remember going out with them once, and it was so beautiful and so empowering. And they said, we don't agree on all aspects of Israel-Palestine, but we're living here. We're here at Rutgers. We want to be together. And the more they got to know each other, the closer they got, and they worked together for quite a while. So it was really very. And I think some of them have carried that spirit on into life. So.
Okay, so the book that we have co-authored is "We Refuse to Be Enemies: How Muslims and Jews Can Make Peace One Friendship at a Time." And in this book, we make a case for the path forward. We have learned some lessons through this experience, and we have an 8-point roadmap that can help not only Muslims and Jews coming together here in the United States and also build a better America, but can also build a better relationship amongst Jews and Christians in Palestine. For example, as I said, that we put America first, but also that we be careful about referring to one another as Islamophobic or anti-Semitic. We understand that there are sensitivities on both sides, but when one is criticizing the leaders of a Jewish state, it's only that. It is just a criticism of the policies and leaders. It is not a criticism of all Jews. And likewise, when you criticize a Muslim leader and their policies, that's all it is. It's not Islamophobia. We also should give people an opportunity to speak out. There are Muslim elected officials who have said things that have hurt the sensibilities of the Jewish people. However, they have a right to speak up within as proud Palestinian Americans. And we also have to work together with those that we do not agree with. And I'm referring to, the politicians in Congress, where there is very strong disagreement on the Palestinian-Israeli issue, but they agree on social causes that are good for America. So despite your agreement, work on those. And there are a few more that, Walter, you may want to talk about, weaponizing and Project Roseanne.
I'll talk about weaponizing, because I have an insight. I was actually going to mention in the we didn't have time. Just today, or the last few days, I've gotten involved in a controversy down in Montgomery County, Maryland, near where I live, and outside of Washington, where a rabbi had asked his congregation, and I think a number of the rabbis there, to get the county council to pass a resolution condemning anti-Semitism. And it's a bit more complicated, basing it on a definition of anti-Semitism that includes the idea that if you're critical of Israel, or more critical of Israel than of other democratic societies, well, that might make you an anti-Semite. So I strongly disagree with this for a number of reasons. But I think that in general, I said, we are all facing right now, Muslims, Jews, African Americans, Hispanics, Asian Americans, LGBTQ Americans, all of us are facing a rise in bigotry. I think it's very wrong-headed to just say anti-Semitism is the worst, is the most. And in fact, we've been going back and forth on discussing this on an email, and one of the rabbi was angry at me, and he said, by the way, anti-Semitism is worse than Islamophobia. There's a higher incident, blah, blah, blah. And I haven't had a chance. I'm going to go to the hotel now. I'm going to respond, and I'm going to say, I don't know the exact percentages, but both of them are huge problems. To say it's only, to give the impression that it's only anti-Semitism I'm very much opposed to. So that's the message of our book at the core, is that we have to do this together. We have to, there are serious challenges in this country, as Sabeeha has laid out, really, and our minority faiths will only be strong if we have a society where everybody's, care for everyone, and making sure that there's not bigotry against any community and so forth. So we say all that, but we also say it in a kind of very personal tone. We have discussions between the two of us on different issues, including Israel-Palestine and some of the passages in the various in the Quran and then the Torah. But we so I think we have a lot to offer. So we tell our stories, our personal stories, our lives, and how we came to where we are today, how we worked together, and hopefully with a kind of a program to carry us forward.